Thanks for joining me on how to welcome a speaker on stage. Yeah, have you ever had an introduction that didn't really go your way, or other times where it was amazing? Today we're going to talk about how you can introduce a speaker and welcome them to the stage in a favorable situation so that they can succeed. I'm telling you, from my career, I have had every kind of introduction you can imagine, and I'm sure I'll have even more crazy ones as I go. I've been doing this for over 24 years as a public speaker, making a living and doing a lot of speeches around the world. I'm a Hall of Fame speaker, but that doesn't mean that everyone gets my introductions right every time. But if you can be the person who shows up and gives a great introduction, then people will be really excited to have you be the person to welcome them to stage. I'm Jason Hewlett. Thanks for joining me. Let's have some fun. So let me start with one of the worst introductions I've ever had, and it happened early on in my career. You see, my dad helped me get a lot of my first gigs, and he had to ask his friends to help him have me at their event. And I remember flying from Salt Lake City, Utah to Phoenix, Arizona. I was so excited because it was a big Christmas party, and it was at this big business, and I felt really cool. I received some money too, so that was a really big thing for me. Now here's what happened. The owner of the company stood up and he said, after this great dinner, awards that were given out, Merry Christmas to everybody. Then he said, well, hey everybody, I had to pay some money for this guy to fly here. His dad's an old friend of mine and he claims his son is really good at what he does. I don't know if this will be worth it, but I hope it's okay. If it's not, I hope you guys have a good Christmas anyway. Here's Jason. And I went on stage and I was like, thanks, man. And I proceeded to kill it and they loved it. But that was really a hard setup. That's not very nice. Versus recently, I had a principal introduce me to the stage. He had begged me to come and speak to his faculty, and it was about a year that I didn't have any dates open. And so we finally made it happen. I get there and the principal stands up on the stage, and it was so spectacular. He said, ladies and gentlemen, I am so honored that our speaker is here. When I first heard him speak a few years ago, I bought his book and I loved it so much I decided to buy one for each of you. How many of you have read it? And every hand in the audience went up, and I was sitting backstage like, wow. And then he said, we've also implemented his book, The Promise, as the theme of our school. I'm like, what? Now he said, I'm so pleased to have him here. He makes so much more money than we could offer him, but we want him to be honored to be here. And so please welcome him the right way. Please welcome Hall of Fame speaker Jason Hewlett. The crowd gave me a standing ovation as I was introduced. That's a good guy to introduce you. You want to be that kind of person that honors the speaker who comes and speaks, not disparages them or makes them embarrassed or makes them question if the audience is even going to have fun. There's a huge difference, and you can do that for any speaker. It'll make you somebody they love forever. So in this video, I'm going to give you 10 ideas as to how you can introduce someone to the stage and do it well and do it effectively. Here we go. Number one is the personalized introduction. Yes, as a speaker, I always carry with me an introduction that allows the person introducing me to know exactly what to say if they don't know me. But if there is a chance to personalize it, just like I told you with that principal who introduced me, and it blew my mind that it was such a great intro. Get to know the speaker. Get to know the person you're introducing. If you're the MC, it's your responsibility backstage to say, hey, tell me about what I can say about you. What are some of the highlights of your career? Do some homework on the speaker. Check out their book. Even read the whole book. I've done that before I introduced somebody when I found out they had a book, and I had about 35 minutes before I had to introduce them. I downloaded their book on Audible, and I downloaded it on Amazon as well as a Kindle. And the next thing I knew, I'm reading it as fast as I could so that I could get on stage and say, I just read his book. I want you to know a couple principles that stood out to me. And then I introduced, and he was floored. I do this a lot for speakers. It's one of my favorite things, but the personalized introduction is very important. Number two would be the interactive icebreaker. In other words, if you know that the audience is not quite sure who's coming out to speak, and you're able to make it something very special about the speaker. For example, if they're speaking on innovation, you could come out on stage and say, ladies and gentlemen, today we have something very special prepared for you. It's about innovation. What does innovation mean to you? Give me some words. And then they start to shout out what innovation means to them. That's setting up the speaker in a great way that they've probably never had anyone do. And then you say, all of your ideas of innovation are awesome. We have the innovation expert here who's going to help us all raise our game. Then you introduce him and they're going to be thrilled. How about number 3, theme incorporation. Now imagine you know enough about the speaker, you know about their presentation they're going to give that it actually fits with the theme of the event. For example, if the theme is elevate and you have a guy who's a mountain climber, well, that's an easy one, right? You can talk about how elevate is going to tie into the speaker and so forth. How cool is it when you know enough about the speaker because you did the homework, you learned about them backstage, or they're a friend of yours because you're already connected in the community, to be able to say, our friend, because our theme is elevate, we brought him in to speak about this very theme and topic. Now you can integrate their entire speech and their entire intro in a very concise, beautiful way in 1 minute or less to bring them to stage in a very successful way with the theme integrated. Then there's number 4, the creative entrance. Not every speaker is willing to put in the time to do something like this, but one of my favorite scenes I've ever witnessed was when Ron Culberson came to stage. Ron is a Hall of Fame speaker, is a humorist, and he's a brilliant, genuine, wonderful guy. He's made a living speaking for decades now, and I remember seeing him when he was the president of the National Speakers Association. This was the convention in front of all the national speakers that were there to see some of the greatest speakers in the world. What Ron did was spectacular. We were in Philadelphia. This was years ago. But if you remember, in Philadelphia, there have been some cool movies filmed there. In other words, he leaned into the film Rocky. What did he do? He filmed himself prior running through the streets like Rocky. He actually even had the boxing gloves, and he ran up the museum steps and he bounced around and danced around, and then he ran back down the steps. He did all of this pre-filming and work that was fascinating. And then of course, he filmed himself coming into the hotel. He had to do this all pre-work, like days prior, in order for them to edit it together. And then he came running when they opened the door. Then it was live. He came running in with the boxing gloves and the cape. It was unbelievable. And I remember thinking, that's a great entrance. That's the ultimate interactive type of experience with the place, the speaker, aspirationally making us all love him because we knew that took a lot of work. He got a great standing ovation for a long time. Number 5, anticipate and acknowledge your audience's expectations. I love this one because I've spent a career trying to make it so that I'm bringing people to the stage properly, whether I'm a keynote speaker introducing the next guy or as a master of ceremonies getting to introduce the next amazing female speaker that they have on the docket. Now, there have been times where the audience expectation is extremely high, and this can be really tricky. When you have somebody you're not quite sure is going to be there, that can be difficult. For example, we had Chuck Norris, one of the greatest martial artists in the world and a TV star, movie star, you name it. He's been in everything. Chuck Norris has this beautiful beard, right? And he's known for all of his kung fu. Chuck Norris was on the docket as the celebrity that was the speaker for this event. I was the MC. I remember coming out on stage and I had grown my beard out just so it was perfect like Chuck Norris's. As I was introducing Chuck, I looked over to the side in order to bring him out, and then I saw the people backstage going like this. I didn't know if they meant I needed to twirl my mustache or spread out the time. They were actually saying, you need to spread out the time. In other words, Chuck Norris was not there. What did I do? I had to give about a 45-minute wing it keynote while I was waiting for Chuck Norris's helicopter to land so I could introduce Chuck Norris. Then I introduced the great Chuck Norris when I saw him standing there, and I was really disappointed. He didn't even have his beard. He had shaved it for the event. So I had a huge beard. Chuck Norris came out without a beard, and I was like, thanks a lot, Chuck. Everyone laughed because they knew I had to kill the time to keep it going while we were waiting for him to show up. These are interesting experiences, right? but it was something that made me think about how audience expectations can be so high, and we as an introducer have to be ready to be up for the challenge, even if it means killing time for late to the game, Chuck. Number 6, let's highlight relevance. You know, think about it. Today, I'm filming this in 2024. Now, AI has become the top thing that a lot of these conferences have. I don't remember the last conference I've been to in almost 2 years where they didn't have an AI-specific speaker. And so when it comes to highlighting relevance, talking about and integrating why you would have an AI speaker coming is a really simple thing. So highlighting that relevance is really a great piece. Number 7 is express gratitude. I had the opportunity to introduce to stage one of my absolute heroes. His name is Les Brown. Les Brown's one of the greatest speakers of all time. My intro was probably a little too long, but he did tell me, brother, I need you to kill some time before you introduce me because I need to go to the bathroom. I said, I got you, Les. I went out on stage and I kept looking over to make sure he wasn't there yet. And when he finally showed up, I had told a story about how he had influenced my life. He only heard the ending part of it, but as I introduced him, I said, please welcome the greatest speaker in the world, Les Brown. He came out, we hugged. He said, ladies and gentlemen, if you're ever so lucky to get Jason Hewlett to introduce you, you'll be a blessed person. It was one of the highlights of my career, but to express gratitude for somebody who had influenced me so much was a great experience. So we talked earlier about acknowledging the audience's expectations, but now let's talk about setting expectations. This is really cool because you can actually establish for the audience what expectations they ought to have for the presentation. So you can say something like, get out your notebooks, get out your laptops and iPads. You're going to have an incredible experience, but I need you to be all in. Please turn off your phones. Please make sure that you're fully present. Set some expectations for the audience. That gives the speaker much more of an opportunity to succeed. Number 9 is to foster connection. Now, when you do this, you can actually really endear yourself to the speaker. One of the things that I like to do is to highlight the fact that they have way more ways of connecting with the speaker than anybody realizes as an audience. For example, the best way I know to do this is to say something to the effect of, our keynote speaker today is somebody who wants to connect with you not just through their speech, but also afterwards. If you're interested, and I do this before the speech, not after. If you're interested after the speech to get a photo or to chat with our speaker, they'll be out back and she'll be signing her books. Now, what did I just do? I seeded in the audience's mind that they have books and that they want to buy it. So while you're listening to our speaker, and she's one of the greats in the world, I want you to think about why this book would be something you want to take home with you. It's your way of taking her home and her ideas in order to share it with the people that you work with, the people that you're most influential over. The next thing you know, this speaker who comes out on stage is embracing me saying, that's the best introduction I've ever had. Thank you for telling him about my book. I forgot to mention that anyway. And then they go into their speech and they can then naturally talk about their book, which they may not have remembered to do. Finally, number 10 is to end with impact. Ending with impact is a powerful piece because not only is it great to introduce a person to the stage and give them every opportunity, but also when they're done, you can come out and make sure everybody gives them a standing ovation. All you have to do, if they aren't standing for whatever reason, is you run out on that stage and you go, let's give it up for Mel Robbins or whoever the great speaker is. And then you look at the audience and you go, let's give it up for Mel Robbins. Now, you're ending with impact. Everybody jumps to their feet and gives them the standing ovation. You make sure to pull Mel Robbins back if she doesn't get a natural standing ovation, which probably never happens for Mel. But you make sure she comes back and receives the applause, and you step back and you let her get those applause. These are ways to end with impact. We've talked about how to welcome someone to stage. I want you, if you would, in the comments, would you please type in who gave you the best introduction of all time in your career? I'd love to know who it was and how they did it. If you want to tag them and share this video and say, thank you for introducing me so well. This is a video that I hope that they'll feel good about the fact that you forwarded this video to them. I appreciate you joining me here, and I'm excited for how you're going to welcome your next speaker to the stage.